Hi, everyone. Thank you for tuning in to the Partners of Scott County Watersheds March Virtual Forum. My name is Cassie, and I'm the coordinator for Partners of Scott County Watersheds. And our mission is to improve the stewardship of Scott County watersheds through education, technical guidance, and volunteer opportunities. So one of the ways that we give education is with these monthly forums. So a couple other things about our organization. We are funded by a few different entities. We have the City of Davenport, the City of Eldridge. We also have Hawk, which is a company that provides testing equipment. Also the Iowa Corn Growers and Scott County, and new this year, Continental Cement. We also provide volunteer opportunities through the form of our volunteer water quality monitoring programs called Snapshots. And those are going to happen on May 4th, I think is the first one. It's a Tuesday from 8 to noon. And we will teach you how to be citizen scientists and monitor water quality in Scott County. So go to extremecleanup.org if you're interested in signing up for that and learning more. Also, we do have a membership and partnership program. Your funding goes directly to our activities. Every little bit helps. We are solely grant funded for our activities. So if you love your forums, please support us. The next forum will be Tuesday, April 20th from noon to 1. It will be virtual once again too. And then there's the details for the spring snapshot. So with that, I will, one more thing. Partners of Scott County Watersheds got some free nitrogen test strips from Iowa Corn. And so we're going to offer these to the public. If anyone is interested in having a one-time check of their water quality, we can have a partners representative come to your property and do some nitrogen testing as well as some other types of water quality parameters. We can do this by either having a representative come to your house, or we can also mail you some of these strips if you'd like to do the tests on your own. And any information that we gather during these tests is strictly confidential. We are not a government agency or an advocacy agency. So go ahead and email info@partnersofscottcountywatersheds.org if you'd be interested in participating in that. And with that, I will let Jennifer begin her program. And once again, thank you all for coming today.
Okay, I'm Jennifer Turner, and can you see my screen here?
Yes, I can see it.
All right. I'm Jennifer Turner. I am the district conservationist at Scott County NRCS office out here on Hillendale Road. I started just a year ago when I started March 16th of 2020, and things just totally changed after that. So it's been a very interesting year. So today I'm going to talk about healthy soil. It's one of those things that is a big buzzword, that your soil health, but what does it really mean? I mean, I can look at soil and say, oh, yeah, that looks healthy out there, but how do I know? And I'm trying to get my screen to move.
Jennifer, you'll have to play your slideshow from the beginning in the top left, and then you can advance.
There you go.
Oh,
okay.
You'll also have to change on the very top where it says display settings. You'll have to switch presenter and display mode. So swap presenter and slideshow view. There you go.
Okay, thank you. I'm new at this whole technology thing. Okay, so healthy soil. So what does healthy soil do for you? So you can produce crops on it. even if you're in town, you can grow flowers on healthy soil or lots of vegetables. Farmers can grow good yields of corn and beans, wheat, oats on a healthy soil. You'll use fewer inputs like your nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, because the soil will hold on to those nutrients so that you don't have to add as much to it. And the water will infiltrate instead of running off, and the soil is running off with the water that runs off and going to the Mississippi River or any other river and causing a sediment to pile up. The water will actually infiltrate into the soil. You'll have lots of earthworms. If you take a shovel of your soil, you'll see lots of earthworms in there. And then there'll be microorganisms like bacteria and fungi, which create a web in your soil with their I just lost it. You'll create a web that helps hold the soil together so that when it does rain, instead of it washing away, it'll hold together and not wash away, because you have these microorganisms in your soil that are helping to hold it together. Even like the bugs, you'll see bugs out there. Those are part of the microorganisms, or livestock, as we like to call it, that are in a healthy soil. Worms, things that you can't see you have to use a microscope. It will also have a lot of organic matter to it. Organic matter where you can see the residues from last year's crops that will still be in that soil, that gives the food to the microorganisms so that they're happy and they're doing their thing and they have plenty to eat. A healthy soil is also covered most of the year. Even in my garden at home, instead of just leaving it bare, I planted some oats on it so that I would have a cover all winter long. And then it's also friable. So this is kind of a word that it's like, okay, what does that mean? But if you took that scoop shovel, you would be able to crumble the soil in your hands. Probably not today because it would be all wet, but if it was drier out, you could take that scoop shovel and you'd be able to just crumble it up in your hands, which gives the roots something they can go down deeper in the soil because it's that way, that it's, that they can push their way through. It'll hold together. Like I said, when it rains, it's not washing away, it's holding together. And it contains more nutrients so that the plant roots can get to those nutrients and you don't have to add fertilizers. And increase water infiltration and less runoff and reduce crusting. So when you till your land, your ground, even like when I till my garden, I work it up with my tiller, and then it rains. Well, that rain shrinks the ground where it will have a crust on it after that rain, and then it's harder for the seeds to push their way up through that crust. So now I have a video, because not everybody wants to listen to me all the time, a video with Ray, the soil guy.
I want to show you how soil disturbance through tillage impacts soil function. Here are two soils. This soil has been disturbed by conventional tillage. This soil has not been tilled for 40 years. It's virtually undisturbed. Watch what happens when I simulate rainfall on these two soils. The undisturbed soil allows every precious inch to infiltrate. This is good for your production and for the environment. The disturbed soil does not allow the water to infiltrate. Most of the water is going to run off. Place your soil into drought mode and put your nutrients into the nearest lake. When it comes to building healthy, productive soils, remember, do not disturb.
So I think this video is very fascinating because both of those soils are crumpled up. He has made them into their, not in a clod. They're crumpled up. So even though both soils are crumpled up, when he puts the water on it, the soil that has not been tilled lets the water go through it, where the one that has been tilled has lost its ability to let the water through and infiltrate, and it just sits on top, which you'll see a lot of times with ponding in a soil that has been tilled for many years. So you could try this at home. This is a little thing that I have done. I took a little container and a 2-liter pop bottle and cut the top off the pop bottle, put some holes in my little container and put some holes in my bottom of my pop bottle, and then put them on a rack, and you can put soil in there and just try it for yourself if you so choose. I've also done this with out in the field. So you need a 6-inch ring, which a 3-pound coffee can happens to be a 6-inch ring. So you cut both ends off of that coffee can, and then you'll take a board and a hammer and pound that into the ground. Then you put the plastic wrap that's there on the ground, you put that over top of it, and then you'll need 144 milliliters of water. So 144 milliliters of water happens to make that 1 inch of water on top of the soil when you have your 6-inch ring. So here I have my can pounded into the ground, and I have my plastic over top of it, and I have dumped my 144 milliliters of water on top of the plastic. And then I removed it and timed how long. As soon as you take that plastic off, you'll time how long it will take for that water to go down. And I realized I did this Sunday and the ground is still wet, so it would take a lot longer for it to go down Sunday than it will in June. So the infiltration rates, when you try this, if it was a sand, it would go down pretty fast. A loam will go down slower, and then a clay will go down even slower than that. So if your water sits there for a long, long time, you're going to know that it doesn't have very good infiltration rates. Maybe you have a a layer in there that is compacted and won't let the water go through. To find this out, an easy way would be to take a flag or a stick with that's metal that you can push down into the soil. And if you find a spot that is hard, it's hard to push through, then you know that you've got some type of a layer in there that is holding that water back, and you need to somehow break up that layer. So if you wish to know what kind of soil that you have, there's a website called the Web Soil Survey, and it will tell you what your soil is. Hopefully it'll open up here. So then you would start this, and you could put your address in there. Or if you knew an area that you wanted to go to, you could do that also. And this happens to be where I live. And it won't do just my garden spot because it's too small. But I will make a big enough area of interest that it will do it. And then I'll go to my soil map, and it tells you that I have a silt loam soil where my garden is. So it's pretty interesting that you can look up the soils on your farm or where you live, if you want to know what type of soils you have. And that's called Web Soil Survey. Now let's talk about soil stability. This is the ability of your soil not to wash away. We also sometimes call it aggregate stability. And here's Ray again.
I have a question to ask you. Is your soil healthy, functioning, and stable? One of the best visual diagnostic tools that I know of is the soil stability test. Here are two soils, exactly the same soil type. This soil has been tilled for 30 years. This soil has not been tilled for 40 years. It is covered with diverse plants year-round. Watch what happens when we drop the soil in the water. Notice how the conventional till soil is falling apart. The biotic glues in the organic matter are burned up by tillage. The soil pores have collapsed. Notice the no-till soil. The pore spaces are still intact. Do this test for yourself. I guarantee if you dig a little, you'll learn a lot.
So it's really interesting to see this happen, and it always fascinates me because the tilled soil really does do that, where it just basically explodes. So this is just what I have created. It's just a couple of flower vases that I bought at Goodwill, and I made some little wire baskets to put in there that I can put my soil in, and then you would fill it with water, and you can watch your own soil, whether it falls apart or not. You'll have to dry the clod a little bit. You'll take a clod, which is maybe like the size of your hand, and you'll slowly break it up. You don't want to mess up the soil pores or anything, so you just slowly break it up so that it will be the size to fit in your basket, and then you'll let it dry for a day or two and then try it out in the water. And it's a really neat test to see if your soil will fall apart or not, because you don't want that soil to fall apart and wash away. You want to have lots of microorganisms in there that create that glue that hold it together. So then, how should a healthy soil look? Let's see what Ray has to say. Oh, it's not going to work.
Did you know soil is the engine of farm production?
But how do you know if it's functioning at its full potential?
By using this tool. Look at this residue.
Oh, there's an earthworm right there near the surface.
Look at all the holes. Wow, look at the little BBs. Looks like cottage cheese.
Roots are going straight down. Lots of pores in that soil. That's what healthy soil should look like. It only takes a minute.
If you dig a little, you'll learn a lot about the health and productivity of your soil.
So did you see how Ray, when he dug up that shovel full of soil, he could easily break it up in his hands? That's what I mean by friable. It's easy to break up into your, as you're working with that soil, it easily breaks up. But you could also see that there were roots from the year before, and there was organic matter in there that gave the microorganisms food. And you could see that there were holes in the soil that the earthworms made. So here, if you look at your soil and you see one of these little clumps on your soil, that is actually what's called an earthworm midden. If you move that bunch of organic matter off of your soil, you would be able to see a hole underneath there. And how they do it, I really don't know. It's kind of interesting because they don't have little hands. So they must do it with their mouths, because they can take that residue that's on the surface of your soil and pull it over there and take it down into the soil where they can eat it and digest it and create that glue that, you know, as you have an earthworm in your hand, there's a little bit of slime to it. Well, that's a glue that helps hold the soil together so that it doesn't wash away. And they create these holes in the soil so that the water will infiltrate better. So here you can see that there's several holes in this clod of soil that he is holding that help allow that the water to infiltrate. The earthworms will create these holes. I wanted to take a picture of a shovel full of soil, but it is too cold out yet for the earthworms to have came up to the surface. It needs to be warmer. And there are different types of earthworms. Some of them that live in the top layer of the organic matter that's on the top, and then there's some that are in like the top foot of the soil, and then there's the big earthworms that will go deep down. The ones I like to try to catch for fishing, they're the ones that will go deep in there and allow the water to really infiltrate, but all of them really let it infiltrate. You can dig up soil and kind of count to see how many you have if you wanted to do that. Or you can, I have dug up like a square, a foot by a foot, and I couldn't find anything that said how many you should have, but if you find lots of them, then you are going to be able to have healthy soil. You can see in this clod, he's also got some organic matter. There's some roots from the last year. There's some organic matter that the earthworm has pulled down in there that is still there, that will give them food to eat. So this is just a video about how that healthy soil helps growers. Again, we have Ray.
A growing number of farmers and conservation experts are focusing on soil health to reduce costs, help the environment, and increase yields. The U.S. Department of Agriculture's Natural Resources Conservation Service is working with farmers to maximize their soil's performance.
By building our soils now will allow us the competitive edge that may mean the difference between survival and not surviving later on.
DeSutter is using no-till planting and cover crops to increase soil nutrients and prevent runoff.
The more of these things we do, the more of these practices we adopt, the better our soil gets and the healthier it gets and the more active it becomes. When you're seeing yields start to go up and climb and do things that other people said were impossible.
NRCS's Ray Archuleta advises farmers on 3 basic actions to improve soil health.
They can understand their context by digging a little into the soil, understand that their soil is a living biological system. The second one is that they can learn to disturb less physical disturbance. And the third one is they need to learn to use more diverse living covers, more cover crops.
Farmer Rodney Rulon says soil health conservation practices have lowered his costs, making for a better bottom line.
Our total nutrient use has consistently gone down to get the same yields or even improved yields. Just the cycling and the biology and everything that's going on there has really helped to kind of pull that nutrient cycle together and make it a little more efficient.
Farmers can contact their local NRCS office for more information. For the U.S. Department of Agriculture, I'm Bob Ellison.
So by doing no-till and cover crops and helping to keep the soil healthy, it won't wash away as much. And that topsoil is what really has the nutrients in it. And you want to keep that topsoil in place because it takes a very long time for soil to be made. Just like a compost pile, you can make it, but it takes a long time and a lot of work for that compost to turn into an actual soil. So if you keep depleting your soil of nutrients by tilling it, when you till it, you open it up to the air, and when you put oxygen in there, then the microorganisms are going to eat up everything faster, and then you won't have the organic matter in the soil. It'll be gone. It'll just go up into the air. There's soil tests that you can do, just like I was showing you. There's little handouts here. If you wanted to actually try some things at home, you can go to this website, and there's lots of different information on how to keep your soil healthy. So on this website, you can go and read about aggregate stability, which is kind of the same as like the slate test or the soil stability test that Ray was doing. Infiltration, you can read all sorts of different things about the quality of your soil and things that you can look at and do on your own. So what can you do? You can minimize the soil disturbance, till less. Okay, so you just run over the soil once with your vertical till instead of disking and chisel plow and then running the vertical till over. You can just do it once, so you'll minimize it if you can't do no till. Keep the ground covered. Plant a cover crop, or make sure that you keep the residue out there instead of tilling your ground in the fall. Just keep that residue out there so that there is something out there for the microorganisms to eat. Plant diverse crops. This one's kind of hard because corn and beans are king here, but maybe add oats or wheat or some other little crop that you can plant in there so that you break up just the corn bean cycle. Utilize livestock. Livestock will, once they're out there eating the crop residues, well, they deposit it and the nutrients back onto the ground so that the nutrients don't go away. They just are deposited back on the ground, which will help. Or even just putting manure on the ground if you have someone that has livestock. So then there's possible cost share options if you're a farmer. There's cover crops. We cost share on cover crops, the NRCS, the federal, and the SWCD and IDOLS, which is state. And no-till, we cost share on that. And then if you're in town and in your yard and you're having problems in your yard, there's something called the soil quality restoration. But don't worry that if you don't know where to or which agency you want to go to, we're all in the same building and we're here to help you. So here's the information to call if you want to call us. We're not yet allowing people in the office because of COVID, or you can email me and I will get you to the right place to get the cost share that you need, because there is a lot of different options that you can do. And that is what I have for today. Is there any questions?
Great, thanks, Jennifer. That was a good presentation. If anyone has questions for her, please type them in either the chat or the Q&A buttons on the bottom of your screen. I'll wait a minute or so to see if any questions pop up. Also, in case you didn't notice, in the chat, we have the links that Jennifer shared with us for those different tools, as well as the videos that you saw today. Okay, it looks like we have one question. Linda's wondering how she could prepare her home garden for planting. I'm guessing that some of the practices that you mentioned could be used on a smaller scale like gardening too, is that right?
That is correct. I know with my own personal garden, I do till it up. I run the tiller and get it all nice. But like I said, I also planted a cover crop this fall to keep it covered over the winter. I just took a little bit of oats and just hand tossed it out there so that I would have some cover over the winter. Maybe placing some straw, or I've heard of people doing like newspapers between the rows so that you keep it covered in the summer, even to give the earthworm something to eat.
Okay, great. Kay says that she has moles in the fall and also voles or mice. Do you have any suggestions as to what she could do to control that?
No. I think that would be Iowa State Extension that takes care of those kind of things.
Okay. Rich is wondering if you can explain the soil quality restoration program and what it does. And maybe you can talk a little bit about the cost share options that the SWCD has for people that want to do soil quality restoration.
Oh, wow. That's one I don't know a lot about. I think it's really cool. From what I understand, so I came from someplace, I came from Jackson County where we didn't have that. So I came down here just a year ago and I've learned a little. So they do like aeration of the soil, which is like poking holes in it. And then they will take a compost and put back on that to fill those holes to give it more organic matter, because it seems like as they build houses, they take that topsoil, which is the really good stuff, and they take it away or just put like a shallow layer of the soil on there so that you're left with a lot of the lower soil that isn't quite as productive as the topsoil is. So it's kind of like just aerating, poking holes in it and putting the compost in it. I'm not sure if there's any more, but give me a call and I will set you up with Jan, who can tell you all about how that's done.
Okay.
I think they do like if I remember right, it's like a 50% cost share, but don't quote me on that one. That's,
I know it's on your website too. So if you go to the US or the Scott County Soil and Water Conservation District website, they have information about the details of that cost share program on there too. We also have it on our website, partnersofscottcountywatersheds.org.
yes, and I'm thinking that there's some cost share through the city also, but again, I would have to refer that to Jan, who takes care of that.
Yes, the city of Davenport does also offer cost share within their city limits, and you can go to Davenport's website to learn more about that program.
They also have a rain garden where if your gutters are coming off your house, you could plant a rain garden that, you know, instead of the water washing down to the storm drain, it could also use it to raise some flowers.
All right, we will wait just a few more seconds to see if any other questions come in. I feel like you gave us a lot of good information, especially those websites have tons of stuff that people can use.
Yes, I like it when, you know, you can do it, something you can try at home.
Okay, I'm not seeing any more questions in the chat. So Jennifer, thank you so much for being our presenter this month. And thanks to everyone who attended today. Oh, Jan is on. She did say the cost share for soil quality restoration through Scott SWCD and the city of Davenport. Scott SWCD can cost share at 50% up to a maximum of $2,000. So there you go. All right. So once again, thank you all so much. And we hope to see you at the next forum, which will be April 20th. Have a great day.
Thank you.